All right, everybody. Thank you guys for joining us. We got Chad with us this evening, and thanks for coming on and spending this evening with us, Chad.
You're welcome.
So we'll let him finish up getting a bite. So what we want to talk about this evening with Chad is some of the new things that he's got going on over there at Colorado Giants. So he's sent me some shots of some pretty cool instruments. Some of them looked alien, in fact, and and we want to talk to him about some of that stuff. So and other things that he's going to be trying out this season. So Chad, first off, what is that little probe thing that you have over there?
If I told you, I'd have to kill you, man. It's not really. So one of the big things, I guess the biggest area that I'm trying to improve this year is just data. Like data collection and making decisions based on data. On interviews that I've done and watching your channel, it seems like the best growers make decisions just based on data and not guesses. And in the past, and if I'm being honest, probably this year to an extent, I will still be kind of like a glug and a pinch and a smidge and a dash and a, sort of guy. But what I'm trying to do is just get things that will tell me how much I need to do rather than a pinch or a smidge or a glug. So the big thing that I showed you was a sensor. So I have two of those sensors that I'm going to put in the greenhouse that at increments of 4 inches at 4, 8, and 12 inches will tell me the temperature, the EC, and the moisture at those 3 increments in the pumpkin patch.
Cool. So for everybody that don't know, you mentioned that it will check the moisture, the EC, and what was it?
The moisture, the EC, and the temperature.
Temperature, yeah. So can you tell everybody what the EC is for those who don't know?
So the EC is the electrical conductivity. What that means is how much stuff is in your water. So for our purposes, the stuff is the fertilizer. We are measuring how much fertilizer is in the soil. Because for an example, if we're watering in an EC of 1 and our soil is an EC of 2, we can use that ratio to then amend the soil to the EC that we're shooting for. So, perhaps you want an EC of 0.8 in your soil. You can then go heavier on your fertilizing to bring the level of fertilizer in your soil to where you want it.
Cool. So you don't mean that we're taking we're taking copper wire, wrapping around a stick and putting it in the ground and doing anything like that with it?
Ooh, you could, yes. And always tie the black wire to the green wire.
Right. Don't so that. Yeah, that's bad. So what other things are you going to be trying out this year that you don't normally do? What are you going to try to improve on? I know you said that you're going to improve on data, but what else are you going to try to improve on to try to hit that 2,000 plus pound pumpkin?
The other two things that I've got going on that I need to do a video on myself is I have a pH. I have a dosing system that will automatically calibrate the pH of my water, as well as add whatever I kind of want automatically to my fertilizing tanks. So, and then I literally just ordered it. Some smart plugs. So my plan is to, in the morning time, I will add my fertilizers through the wonders of technology. My mixing pumps wait a second. The Aero mixer that you recommended is actually quite good and mixes the stuffing out of the water. It keeps everything in suspense. So the hype for the Aero mixer is real. It's actually good. I was a little skeptical, but it's really good.
It is very good.
So I'm gonna use smart timers to turn on the aero mixer at a certain time, turn that off at a certain time. Once that turns off, my pump turns on, so that all of that stuff is automatic. What's up, bud?
Cool.
Yes. So those three bits of technology are going to be the biggest changes. Past that, I have weed fabric, so that's a pretty massive change that I'm making this year, growing on weed fabric.
Do you? I wanted to talk to you about that because everybody seems to be going this route where they're covering up everything with weed fabric. And I get it. I understand it because weeds are real. We don't really have the time to be out there weeding, nor do we need to be out there stepping around the vines and breaking stuff off and everything. Like, I get it. I understand it. And I think it's a great idea. But do you ever worry about cutting into some of your drip lines or maybe it not rooting right or any of that stuff?
Oh yeah, I mean it's a balancing act, right? So the main reason, and then the main slash secondary reason for both the automation and the weed fabric is to free up my time. Like we were talking before we jumped on stage, I'm going to have another kid show up, probably late July, start of August. Right. So with three young children, and I own a business and I fight robots and, we have the animals to take care of. So the amount of free time that I have to just spend out in the greenhouse with pumpkins is not a whole heck of a lot. So it's a double. Yes, I do have another baby coming. It's a double prong where that information that I'm going to gather will help me make decisions to make the pumpkin bigger, but it's also just frees up my time. But yeah, I mean, I do think that there is potential downsides for the weed fabric. Moby Mike raised a concern, will that, perhaps create an environment that disease will flourish? That is one of my number one reasons for doing the weed fabric, is to inhibit the disease spreading into my plants. So I want to keep the vines healthy. I want to keep them off the soil. I want healthy plants to make a big pumpkin. So hopefully, but we'll find out this year.
Right. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't you put something in your soil that kills disease?
Yep. So, and Jesus is God. It is tacos tonight. She always asks. Yeah. So I basically killed my soil. I did Zerotol. So it's just a peroxide product that kills everything.
Good and
stuff,
bad.
Bad stuff, live stuff, red stuff, dead stuff. It kills it all. It's very indiscriminate. So the logicking there is that it's easy to add healthy things in. You can add all your extreme products. You can add, there's a crap ton of beneficial product companies out there. So it's easy to re-inoculate the soil with good stuff after eliminating the bad stuff.
Right. So the Zerotol, how do you apply it? Do you water it in, like drench it in? How did you do that?
Yep. So I just ran it through my system, just like fertilizer. You're supposed to use something like a tablespoon per gallon. Okay. I used a half a jug per 100 gallons, and then the next day I did another half a jug per 100 gallons. So I went
heavy,
real heavy, heavy, because it's something you can't overdose on.
Oh, you can't. Okay, cool. No. Now, how long does it stay in the soil before you put good stuff back in?
So if you call that company, there's their head scientist guy. He's super knowledgeable. He said you can do it, the next hour. It just kills stuff right away, and then it becomes inert shortly thereafter. So if you were really on a time
Okay.
crunch, you could peroxide your soil that morning, and then that afternoon you're re-inoculating.
Okay, cool. That's really good information to have, because some of us who may already be planted, but your plants are only this big. You could work out away from it. You might be able to go on ahead and get your soil disease killed out, and still have time to do that, even though you got stuff planted in the ground. So, what else are you going to try out this year outside of that? Are you going to do more biologics, or what are you looking like on that home front?
I don't think I'm going to do more per se. I think I'm going to try to be more consistent with it. In the world of monkey see, monkey do, Travis, and Ron and a handful of people have had tremendous success riding on the biological train, right? So,
Yep.
oh, Jason, you're funny. Riding on the bio, I'm getting text messages. Riding on the biological train, but with that being said, there is a ton of people who are having amazing success without any biologicals. Who they don't. There's no poo-pooing of the biologicals, but perhaps there's some healthy skepticism that they are not necessarily the end all to be all. So I'm going
Right.
to use them. I don't think there's any downside,
No.
other than spending money.
That yeah.
So
That,
I have the stuff, and that's something I'm very guilty of. That like I get all this stuff, and halfway through the season, I stop using product X, Y, or Z just because I forget. So I'm just going to be more on top of just being scheduled and disciplined and using what I have.
okay. All right. So, do you think that because you slack off in the latter part of the season, or not slack off, but you forget to add those X,
Slack
Y's,
off
and Z's?
is accurate. I get burned out.
Well, I think we all. I think we all do. I think we're all gung ho in April because we all were pent up all winter, and
Yes.
come July, we're just like, whatever. I'm done. I'm over it. It was fun, we're
Yeah.
done. We're just skating on fumes, and hopefully that the pumpkin will do its thing and make us look like a champion, right? Um, but do you think if you would have continued with the X, Y, and Z stuff, the products and everything, do you think that it would have mattered? Because you've grown some really big pumpkins. Do you think that it would have made them any bigger?
100%. I do, and in XYZ, included in that are things like, fungicides, pesticides, just well, we could say the program as a whole. Once I start to get burned out and my give a crap kind of lowers, then I'm just, you're coasting, and you're living off of the work that you put in initially. And that's
Right.
also what the most successful people do is they keep pushing through July and August, and they're putting in the work. So yes, I've been successful, but at the end of pretty much every year for the last few years, I'm always kicking myself in the rear end because I know it could have been better if I had stayed on top of my fungicides, if I had sprayed for powdery mildew, if I had put mouse traps around my pumpkin, if. So I just want to, and I say it every year, and I kind of peter off, but I want to do it this year, is
Right.
just stay on top of things.
Um, so how many pumpkins are you going to grow this year? 3, 2,
Pumpkins.
1,
Yep. I
3?
actually I just planted them maybe an hour and a half ago.
And do you care telling us what you planted?
I planted. So let's see here. I started 2006 Wolves, 1783 new, the Colorado State record. The 2266 Kaminsky, Kaminsmore, Kissamore, that one. And I started some of the 1931 Turners from Brian Turner, which is
that was one of yours, right?
Yeah, that was his a cross between the 1783 and the 16 whatever, I don't remember. And I purposefully was not paying attention to my seedlings. Like I didn't want to look at the tags to see like my seed's doing better, and putting putting expectations that were not necessarily there. So like today when I took them out, I for the first time I assessed the plants, and the 1931 Turner was the biggest one by far, followed by the 1783 and then the 2006 and the 2266. Say it again. Kissamore. Unfortunately, was, even though that's a high octane seed that's going to be really popular this year, I have to go with the plants rather than the genetics. And the 1931 Turner was way better than that 2266. So unfortunately, that 2266, it's a very popular, expensive seed. I'm going to give it away to whoever claims it on the Colorado Gardening Group.
There you go. Now, did you double plant those?
Yeah.
Or did you only single plant them?
Nope. Everything got the same seed side by side.
Okay, cool. Now, I noticed in a picture that you posted, I think the picture said on the tag, good roots or something like that on the tag, or nice roots or something like that.
Yeah. So let's see, when you start your seed in the, like I just start mine in a little foam cup. And then when you put them from the foam cup, or when I do, from the foam cup into the 1 gallon pot, I just look at it and I take notes and I assess it. So there was a few that just, had an above average amount of roots, and both of the 1931s had the nice roots on the tag, as well as one 2006. Everything else was good, but just those three plants, were the best, the cream of the top, that rose to the top.
Right. Now, what did you use for your soil, your seed mix?
When I did the seedlings, I just used Black Gold, whatever I get from Ron, and then when I pot them up, I use sorry, just getting a text message. My daughter locked herself out of her room. Hooray for 3-year-olds. So I use just whatever the the hydroponic store recommended, and then I add Wallace, mycorrhiza, azos, and then a few things that Rocky Mountain BioAg sent me, just biological stuff, no fertilizer.
Right. And then at transplant, what are you doing at transplant?
All of that again, but more of it. I got this package in the mail today that looked like I had 3 kilos of Colombian Bang Bang, but in actuality, it was Azos. And I'm like, hopefully the post office didn't open those up and was like, oh, jackpot. But just more of
man.
More biologicals. And then I watered in.
Lord have mercy.
I watered in Versatility, TerraGrow, some B1 for plant shock, and I don't know, whatever other biological I could throw in.
Right. And then what are you going to do between now and a week from now? Are you just going to let the plants do their thing? Or are you going to water them? How many, like, What's the first week look like when you transplant?
The first week, sorry, maybe 30. The first week looks like just biologics. I want them to get established. I don't want to start hitting them with lots of fertilizer right off the get-go. It's just a baby, and you kind of need to treat it as such, but the ramp up will be quick. After a week or so, I start hitting them with the fertilizers. I'm using the Plant Marvel stuff this year from Ron. And calcium nitrate's always a go-to for me. So not a whole lot in the get-go. After that, it's off to the races.
Do you use Urea Mate?
No, I don't know what that is.
Oh, you don't know what Urea Mate is? Okay, cool. Well, you're like one of the few people who haven't got in on that Urea Mate stuff. I think it's a pumpkin blow up and a pumpkin exploder. I think is what pretty much what it is.
And everybody, even though I talk to a lot of people, and I'm chatty. Like I don't really ask a lot of questions from people, and I'm not hip with what the coolest thing is.
You just do you.
I kind of do me, and I'll talk to like Ron, and I'll talk to Don Barron and Mike, and just a few people ask a question here or there. But otherwise, I'm just kind of, blissfully unaware of what's going on. I'm just doing my thing.
Right. So we got a couple questions here before I go on to my next thing. And Missouri Pumpkin Works said, if you had to give up pumpkins or robots, which would it be?
Ooh, that's a good one. Probably robots. They're more expensive.
Really? You'd give up robots? I thought you'd give up pumpkins.
If it was robots or pumpkins, like robots, I have to travel. I went to California 2 weeks ago, and then in 3 weeks, I'm going to go to New York, and then I'm probably going to go to Vegas and sometime before the baby comes.
Oh, wow.
So even though I enjoy it a lot, and it's a lot of fun, and my kids like it, the intelligent financial decision would be to just grow pumpkins. As weird of a thing that is to say to most pumpkin people, saying that's smart. And like, if you want to even faster way to flush money down the drain than pumpkins, it's robots that are designed to destroy one another.
That's funny. So Jesus is God said, what got you started in growing giants?
So I grew up in Las Vegas. I stayed there until I was 30. When I went to the Bellagio, if you're familiar with the Bellagio, they have that big, I don't know what that's called, just a seasonal display with live things. And every fall they have giant pumpkins in there. And I always liked pumpkins. Everybody has that kind of special appreciation. Most people do. Unless you're a communist, then you enjoy pumpkins.
Right.
And when I would go to the pumpkin patch, the 10-year-old version of myself was like, please, Mom, can I have that 100-pound pumpkin? It's amazing. So I saw those, and I at that point I knew it was a thing and it was real. And because I am a full asser to the max, like if I want to do it, I want to overdo it. I just grow the giant pumpkins.
There you go. So she also has another question and says, how much money do you spend on that hobby estimated?
Yeah,
that's what I was thinking.
Too much money. Way too much.
There you go. That's right. That's right. And then she said, when are you going to start your new podcast, Dinner with Chad?
Tuesday nights.
Yeah.
because we're in Colorado, 6:00 is ideal because it's 6:00-ish, it's 8:00 East Coast and 4:00 West Coast. So if we did it later or earlier, it would not be ideal for one of the coasts. So being in the middle, it's dinner time for me.
Hang on. I thought West Coast was only 3-hour difference from me.
2. California is 2. right?
It's 2 for you? No, it's 1,
Uh,
right?
one,
And
one.
Hawaii's, yeah, yeah. You had me confused for a second. I thought, oh God, I'm supposed to do something tomorrow at this time. I gotta. I was starting to worry, man. I was gonna have to check my calendar again. Oh no, she got another question. Here we go. So she says, if I win the next numbers guess on your live stream, I don't know, on your live can. What? Oh, hang on. I'm reading that wrong. If I win the next numbers guest on your live, can I name your baby? Oh goodness. Oh goodness.
I don't think our, we have two names. We have two names already picked out if it's a boy or a girl. So we already got you beat.
There you go. Let's see here. Jason says, "Do you need me to watch your pumpkins, Chad?"
Calvin. I need to hit up Calvin. I have a few friends who are close to me, thankfully, that are on pumpkin duty. So with the amount
Right.
of automation that I'm trying to plug in, I just need somebody to come and scoop some fertilizer into the tanks and call it good.
Missouri Pumpkin Works says, all right, Team Pumpkin, do you think there will ever be a pumpkin TV show like BattleBots on Discovery? And then he says, talk to them executive.
That's funny, Ryan. We were just talking about that before. So the executive producer of BattleBots was at the event in California, and we were talking about giant pumpkins, and he's like, "Oh, by the way, we shot a pilot for a pumpkin show that was intended to be National Geographic a few years ago. I had to go fix a robot, so I didn't really get to dive into that conversation more. But yes, I do think it's a possibility. I will work on turning the gears and levers that I have at my disposal to try and make that thing make that happen, because in TV is super political, not in like a governmental political way, but
Right.
you have to have executives who like are willing to kind of juice you through. It's a what you know, it's a who you know versus what you know. In
That's
the
right.
TV realm, it's not as black and white as you would think it is. Like, does it get views? Yes or no? Green light, red light. It's a somebody has to like you. It has to get views. It has to sell ad space. There's a whole lot of things that you don't really consider when it comes to the sphere of what makes good TV,
Right.
versus what makes TV get on TV.
Right. Exactly. And there's so much that goes into it. And it when I first started thinking about that whole thing, it was kind of like, this should be a piece of cake. I just shoot a pilot and send to them. They'll love this stuff. And then talking to you, talking to some other people about it, it's like, wow, I didn't know it was this much work. There's a lot of work going into this to try to make a TV show about something. So yeah, this is it would be fun though. I think there's plenty of room on TV. I think if we can have shows like Moonshiners and Pawn Stars and stuff like that, I think Pumpkin Wars would be up there at the top of all that, because it's good fun. So
I right there. I think it can happen. You just have to find the right combination of producer, network executive, network content. That all has to kind of go together. But if that synergy was found, I do think it would be a good TV show.
Yep, I think it would be an excellent one. So I got a question. So are you going to bury the vines? And if so, you're going to be cutting holes, I'm assuming, into the fabric to bury those vines, right?
Yeah, so I will. I'm not going to bury them per se. I'm going to cover them. I want the bottom root, but I don't want to totally cover the vine. Again, for disease reasons, I might bury the vines on one plant. I'm considering that. But yeah, I need to cut a little hole in there, from which will spring forth weeds but nowhere to the amount that I would normally have, especially since I've
Right.
been lazy and I let my my weeds go to seed. So I have even more weeds.
Oh Lord.
It's a slippery slope.
Have you ever thought about killing the weed seeds during the wintertime with the using plastic on the ground and clear plastic and just let them heat up and fry them that way?
Yeah, I've thought about that, and I've thought about like preening them and then rototill and more plastic, more preen. Um, those are all things that one day I'll find the motivation.
Right.
Yeah.
So the burying. So you're just going to let the bottom root come out. You're not going to be worried about the top root, right? So is there? So I guess you're saying that there's probably evidence in saying that you really don't need that top root then.
I don't know if I would go that far, but people like oh crumbs, who's the Deletus? Not Deletus. Who's the guy back east that's grows Stelz? Like Dave Stelz, he doesn't bury his vines, and he had shoot, what did he have the last few years? He's had, I think he grows like 5 or 6 pumpkins, and there was several, like 5 over 2,000 pounds. So you have the argument: do you have 5 2,200 pound or 5 pumpkins with a 2,200 pound average, or would he have had 5 pumpkins with a 2,400 pound average if he had buried his vines? You know, you never you never really know. I don't think Jacob hasn't buried his vines the last few years, and last year he had possibly had 2,000 pound pumpkins. He didn't bury his vines. Would he have had 2,500 pound pumpkins? You know, you never know. You never know.
Right. And that's a fair assessment.
But the greater benefit is plant health. That's what always takes me down. At the end of the year, when I'm removing my plant, the vines are like, Gumby, rotten, nasty, not celery sticks. Like I'm going for celery sticks that are crunchy, and that's the goal.
Cool. So we got some more questions here, and we're getting filled with questions tonight. Let's go back up here. Too far. So we answered the burying the vine thing. Let's see here. Do you buy special soil to bury your nodes if you bury them?
Usually, no. I get a shovel and I go kind of like to the periphery of my pumpkin patch, and I just take shovels and I shovel them in. Because most of my soil is covered with plastic this year, I'm going to have to pull a Jason, and I didn't realize this until like today that I'm going to have to pull a Jason and go buy a bunch of bags of some sort of potting mix to bury, because everything's covered up. Oops.
Right. Doug Brimley says, "Say, do you have a friendly wager with Brad?" I'm guessing on the who grows a bigger pumpkin this year.
We have an unfriendly wager with Brad. He's going down. I want Brad to grow a 2,000 pound pumpkin, and I want to grow a 2,001 pound pumpkin.
There you go. Or just a 2,000.5 pumpkin.
Yeah, that'll work.
Right. Yeah. So Tony Amato, he says, what's your fungicide pesticide regimen?
That's a good question. I use TKO. I don't do a lot of pesticide. I saw somebody at a squash vine borer question. We don't get squash vine borers in Colorado. Aphids and squash bugs or stink bugs are our biggest issue, and cucumber beetles are our biggest issue here. But I use a Merit because I'm in a greenhouse. I don't have to worry about the bees. So I use like Merit, Talstar. Those are my 2 insecticides. And then fungicide is Eagle 20, TKO Max, which is a biological. And then I got Rimadyl this year. And I probably have a few others. But that's on my agenda, is to like take inventory of what I have, make myself a schedule.
So let's see here. The Pumpkin Club says, other than vine bearing, what other two or three things are key to plant health?
Plant health, I think the biggest thing is consistency. Um, the pumpkin plants respond well to you just consistency in that, be it consistent temperatures, consistent light, consistent watering, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Whatever you can do to increase your level of consistency will be a net positive.
Right. So Jesus is God. He could design a robot, but there's already one that's designed. It's called the Turtle, and I've got one. It's solar powered. You put it in your garden and you just let it go to whacking all the weeds down. It works great. But if you was to design one, have you seen the Turtle?
Yeah, I have.
Okay. If you was to design one, what would it be like?
Ooh, well, let's see. That'd probably be like a 30-pound robot class. So would need like a 10-pound spinning weed whacker at about, I don't know, 10,000 RPMs or so.
Oh
Made
wow.
of
Now
titanium.
that would be that would be cool, man. You didn't have to worry about cutting the vines on with that thing.
Yeah.
Let's see here. What is your native soil like?
I have a lot of clay. I am heavy clay. A lot of clay. And it's interesting when
How,
I first moved in, it was clay and like a hard sandstone. So the
right?
last few years, I've brought in a lot of peat moss, basically just peat moss and perlite. I've added lots and lots of peat moss and perlite to lower my pH, raise my organic matter, and try to interrupt that clay.
I was always under the because I went back and watched your old videos, your first videos when you were growing in that little greenhouse, um,
Hmm.
and and all the way through. But I was under the impression that you had put in a lot of stuff in there on top of the clay, but that's not the case. Then you've actually brought that clay up and mixed it in with everything that's in there.
I mix it up with the clay. It's
Okay,
a clay base, but through irresponsible amount of financial spending and labor, you can add enough to get to the point where the clay is really nice fluffy soil. I mean, it clay is very important. It's good for water retention and nutrient retention. Versus like I know like Ron grows in large part just like sand. So
right,
whatever he's fertilizing in, he
running
struggles.
out.
Yeah, he struggles with soil. You see, it just runs out, like you said. So I don't, I don't hate the clay, but it's something that you have to just work with.
How many years did it take to get to where it's looking like it has since 2020? Because I can remember in 2020 your soil looked pretty much like it does now. I mean, it's looking better every year, but I mean it looked good then. Like it doesn't look like my clay, right? Like I would never have thought in 2020 you were growing in clay because I've dumped absurd amount of compost in there and topsoil in there and everything, and the clay just eats it and you
Yeah,
can't even tell you put anything in there. So, like, how many years did it take to get to that point?
I moved from my old house, that I had the kind of the homemade greenhouses to when I moved to my new property where I bought like a real greenhouse. I brought all that soil with me, so
Oh,
I started with like good soil that I ripped in and I tilled in to the greenhouse that as it exists right now. So I started with good soil just because I literally paid um, a guy with a bobcat and a dump truck to bring my old soil.
that's cool. That's pretty cool. I wouldn't have thought to have done that. Man, I hope I never move. I'm gonna have to do the same thing. Somebody's gonna be upset that the yard's missing.
Right. I started on
um,
a school.
right. So let's see here. I thought I seen some questions here pop up. Native soil. Please. Oh, she was saying, please design a robot that will protect the plants from wildlife to patrol the garden. Yeah, something that shoots fake mortars out. Boom, boom. So the turtle is spelled Tertle, I think is how it's spelled. Yeah, no. Tertill, turtle, like tilling. You Google it and you'll see it's like a little robot. It's got a solar panel on top of it. You can set it down, it goes in there and it cuts weeds, and you can put little barriers up and stuff like that. And it does really well. I've used it for over a year now, and I like it. It's done well for me. Chad has a giant turtle at home with one of your sulcatas. Tony says, what's the three things we'll take for him to take him from 500 pounds to 1,500 pounds this year?
Good question, Anthony. I would say a good seed, get a proven seed. That would be number one. Consistency would be number two. And when I say consistency, I mean consistency in your watering, consistency in your fertilizing, consistency in your fungicides and insecticides. So just consistency there. And then I'll also say consistency throughout the season in your application of those and staying on schedule and on track with what you got going on. And number three would be luck, good weather.
Yeah. Because it's really, I mean, let's be honest, even with the seeds that are out there today, it's not easy to hit 1,500 pounds. I mean, it's easier, but it's still not easy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think, people, if you're a good gardener, you can get, if you got a good seed, you can get a 500-pound pumpkin pretty easy.
Right.
Then, 500 to 1,000 is a few more notches up. And then, 1,000 to 1,500 is a few more notches up. And it kind of goes up from there. And it's also where geographically, wherever you're located, can make things easier or harder. Like I think in Colorado, we probably have a handicap of, 300 to 500 pounds, somewhere in that ballpark,
right.
Just because the weather that we have, the environment that we grow in, it's not as easy as if you were in Michigan. They have great weather.
Right. Or Minnesota.
Minnesota, New England.
Right. Up north, anywhere up north. So Cameron says, do you see a difference in the pumpkin growth with higher, lower humidity levels in the greenhouse?
With higher or lower, I don't know if I've seen a difference. I think that the humidity helps, and that's one of the reasons that I grow in a greenhouse, because in Colorado, on average, our humidity is like 10. Right. So Denver, the area that we're in is technically a high desert. So we have no humidity to speak of, and a large part of the plant absorbing water happens through the leaves. So people people that grow in an environment that doesn't have humidity are at a severe disadvantage to somebody who, like we just said, New England, Washington, Michigan, Minnesota, places that have a measure of humidity that the plant can uptake more water that equals pumpkin weight. So, I do think it helps being in the greenhouse with my swamp cooler that creates humidity, retains moisture and humidity in that structure. It helps.
Right. Because I could see being, that where you're at, if you were growing outdoors, I could see the environment wicking away the moisture from those pumpkins, and your pumpkins maybe not have ever been as big as they were if you had grown outdoors versus what you were growing indoors, because of that, because of there not being humidity and it being a high desert and it pulling and wicking away that moisture. You think that would probably be a possibility?
Oh yeah. Absolutely. And our altitude, like Jason just said, I mean, we're
Right.
Denver, the Mile High Cities at 5,280 feet of elevation. A lot of those places that we mentioned, they're sea level or not too
Right.
far from it. I'm at over what am I at? 5,800 or something here. So I'm over a mile
Wow.
where I'm at. So that it's a
Yeah.
challenge.
I guess I'm at half a mile. Oh, yeah, well, close to half a mile. Anyhow, I'm at 22. I think it's 2266 here, so close to half a mile. But I got a humidity.
I got you beat.
So the pumpkin, yeah, you got me beat by a lot. Pumpkin Club says, have you noticed that many of my amendments, or they have noticed that many of their amendments have humates. I also have Ron's 5.2 and the humic. Can you overdo humic?
I don't think so. I'll caveat that with Ron would be a much better person to ask that question to. But I plan on, like when I mentioned, I have those automatic dosers. I'm going to set a measure of humic/humate to be dosed every single day. The main benefit of that is it improves your soil structure, and it also acts as a catalyst to help the plant uptake more nutrients. So I'm sure there's a point where you can overdo it, but maybe not.
So I have used, anybody who watches the channel knows I have used a buttload of humic and fulvic acid, and I've not had any negative effects from it. I mean, I probably go on average of probably 30 or 40 bottles, 32-ounce bottles of humic and fulvic every year for the past 2 years.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
It's a lot. And and I've not heard them. I'll drench it and I'll foliar feed it, and I've not heard anything yet. But that's me. So don't do what I do. Just telling you what I've done. Definitely don't ever do what we do. Just do what you do. Let me see. Let's see. We got another one here. Cameron says, in terms of keeping the pumpkin flesh skin soft for the growth, I've heard less splits happen with higher humidity as the flesh is softer and can grow easier. Hard to explain. I say it's probably right. I mean, that's why we cover them too, because if you ever remove the covers off, they're kind of sweaty like under there.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely helps.
A lot of that too is genetics. The last 2 years, I haven't covered up my pumpkins at all. Like not even a little bit. And I've had a few that were just, that bright orange, my 16 whatever. Yeah, 1643. It was as red as an apple. It was smooth. It didn't have any cantalouping, and that didn't see one day of cover. So it helps, but it's also a genetic thing.
Right. You mean to tell me that a pumpkin can get red without a camera?
Yeah.
Surely it takes one of these to make it red.
It's possible if you believe.
Right. So Cameron says, once you set up a pumpkin, do you cut the vine going past it to let it grow? I guess he's trying to say like deadhead it. Do you deadhead the vine?
Yeah, I have in the past, and I really like it. I'm gonna do that too. I'm planning on doing that too. I don't know, but we'll see when the pumpkins come. But if the pumpkins arrive in a position that is advantageous for a deadhead, I'm going to, because I love how you can manage the pumpkin with a deadhead versus a Christmas tree. It just makes it so much easier to manipulate the pumpkin, to move it, to service the pumpkin. Everything is easier when you deadhead.
Now, I got a question about that. I know you did it last year, right? You did it last year with one plant, or was it the year before that you did one plant and then you let the rest of them Christmas tree? I think it was last year, right? That you deadheaded one and tried it out, and then you let the other ones grow Christmas tree pattern.
Yeah.
If you was to have a problem where you needed extra foliage? Because me and Travis have had this conversation several times. What would you do if you deadheaded that plant and you have nothing growing after it? How would you get that? Would you just, because you're like us, we trim the tertiaries off. So if we trim the tertiaries, how are we going to get more foliage if we needed it?
So like so with that, when I deadhead, I keep I do keep that last, like the last two secondaries on each side. I try to keep those growing. That takes the place of the main vine. And I keep those growing until everything is filled in. So and then I also don't immediately pinch those tertiaries for that very reason. I want to make sure the pumpkin's alive. It's not going to abort. There's no problems. Knock on wood. Ultimately, you never know. But I want to keep everything going as long as possible.
Cool. Now I got one more question before we go back over here to the questions over here. I forgot to ask this earlier. So are you just going to do holes in the fabric for the main vine, or are you also going to do that, for the secondary vines as well?
I'll do them for the secondary vines.
Okay. Let's see here. Go back up here. What is the best? Dust to Dust Homestead says, what is the best product to lower pH in high alkalinity well water?
What is the best product? Whatever your local hydroponic store has that says pH down. I use a citric acid based. Most of them are some form of acid to lower your pH.
Right. So Tony says, if everybody grows a Wolf, Ginger, or other top popular seed, are we hurting ourselves by not outcrossing genetics?
That's a really good question, and I think that too. We're, again, it goes back to the monkey see, monkey do. And if he has success, we're chasing that success. I purposefully selected just one 2365 based genetic this year, and everything else has been, hopefully will be big heavy genetics. But there's outcrossing. If you do research on, like, I don't know, horse breeding, you always, to a point, you get to a point where you have to outcross to bring in some new genetics. So I do think it's important that there always be something that is not necessarily 2365, and there's big pumpkins that were grown the last few years that were not 2365s, but the combination of big and pretty and orange and all that stuff, people are drawn to it, obviously, as they should be. But even like what was it? What's Maverick? Maverick wasn't a 2365, right?
1885 SIB.
Yeah. So that was still in the same kind of lineage of the 2365, another 1885. So, it's relatively easy to get some outcrossed genetic diversity back into your pumpkins.
Right. I mean, you could take a 1501 based, 1501 van der Weylen based seed, cross it to, the 1885 based seed, which van der Weylen did last year. Van der Weylen actually crossed his 1501 to the 1885, right? He crossed them two together and came up with a 2271 or 2271. And I actually have that out there growing right now in my grow room, and it's doing really well. So, I'm a sucker for 1501 genetics, 1872 Sipple, 2350 Ginger. If it's got a 1501 in it, I kind of want to grow it, so I actually got the 1501 pop today. It's up and growing today. Woohoo! But we're going to outcross that with some 1161 genetics. So we got the 1610 LeBeer, 1161, and some other stuff that we're going to outcross to some old stuff, just to try to help prevent this kind of thing, to bring in that old stuff back into the new stuff. And maybe it does nothing. Maybe it does something awesome. Who knows? But I think as a whole, the whole pumpkin growing community is just a one giant learning curve, experiment, whatever you want to call it, right? We're all just bouncing ideas off of one another and having fun with it.
Yep, absolutely.
So Cameron says, if my pumpkin isn't cherry red from my cooks, I'll use a Lightroom Plus. Oh man, Cameron. Oh man. Yes. Call me and I'll tell you how to do it. Yeah, just give me a phone call. I'll tell you exactly how to make that thing red. Go out there with some spray paint and some turtle wax, and you'll come out with a red pumpkin. All right. In fact, I tell you what I do. I actually take an IV drip of food coloring, and yep, there you go, food coloring. That's exactly what I do. IV drip of food coloring and makes it red. But no. Are you going to grow anything else this year? I know you've grown some watermelons and tomatoes and stuff like that. Are you going to try to play with any of that stuff this year? Or are you just going to totally focus on giant pumpkins?
I wanted to grow a squash this year. I was planning on growing a squash, but the seed arrived too late. I'm going to grow a giant tomato this year. And other than that, just kind of garden stuff. I want to grow. I have like a vision of like a big gourd tunnel that like Leonardo has, and you can see him on like Instagram and stuff. And one day, I don't know if it's this year, but I do want to do something like that. That'd be way cool.
That would be very, very cool. So no giant watermelons this year or a giant gourd. I kind of miss watching you grow them bushel gourds, man. That was always fun.
The bushel gourds are super, super, super cool. I want another patch for my jacket, so that's why I want to grow 3 pumpkins this year. But another bushel gourd is definitely in my future. Those things are so much fun to grow. Especially there's so much fun to grow because they are just so easy that it plays into my my lackadaisical grow style at times.
That's funny. What about? I know we talked about before you trying to go for a world record of some sort, like the butternut or anything. Would you still interested in doing something like that?
Yeah, I would love to do that. I think that the butternut is kind of low hanging fruit there. It's something that's obtainable. Like the chances of me catching Travis at 2,750 pounds, somewhere between impossible and improbable. But there is things that are obtainable, like butternut squash. I think bushel gourd. If somebody put a lot of effort into a bushel gourd, there's things that you could probably do that would throw you into the realm of world recordness.
Right. So we can look forward to your future of growing maybe just one big giant bushel gourd in your greenhouse then.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I could, I think that if I threw my effort into a bushel gourd rather than like the state record bushel gourd was just like grow.
Right.
There was no real effort involved in it. If people were to give them a lot of effort, it could definitely be done.
What about long gourds? Would you want to grow long gourds out there? I would assume they grow pretty good.
Yeah, long gourds grow pretty good. I have the stuff to make a long gourd trellis. I got it last year. I just haven't made it.
You need me to come out there and help you?
Yeah. If you could come out for like a week, that'd be great. I could knock.
No problem, man. I'll get my plane ticket and we'll come out there and we'll knock this stuff out and make some videos too. So Tony says tips for bushel gourd that differs from the pumpkins.
Bushel gourds are interesting things. You kind of grow them a lot like a pumpkin, but the fruit always comes on a secondary vine. I'd never buried any of my vines, and in hindsight, like removing the plant, there was roots that wanted to come off of the secondary vine. So I think that if you buried your vines, that would be different. It kind of fully circles back to it's kind of like a pumpkin, but it's very different too. Just bushel gourds are so just they just want to grow. And you can cut all of your secondary vines off, and then they're going to pop out more secondary vines. So bushel gourd is just whereas the downside of it is it's just high management, because it has so much energy. It'll grow plant everywhere. You'll have like 5 layers of plant growing on top of one another.
That's why I haven't grown another one since your 248. Because that thing, it took over everything. Like, it was just like, where is this thing going? And then it was just crazy. And I had to ask you about where to pollinate it at, because I was like, there ain't no fruit here, because I was looking on the main vine, and it was, there's secondaries. And you got to pollinate at night, because that's when the blooms open up. So there's another thing that you got to, but they are a lot of fun, and they are very, very energetic. They're just tons of energy, tons of wanting to grow. And they're a lot of fun. So anybody that wants to grow one, highly encourage you to. But make sure you got room, because you ain't going to grow one of them in no 150 square foot. I can tell you that right now.
I mean, I literally
good luck.
I just trimmed mine. I got like my hedge clippers out, and I would just pick a line, and I just started hedge clipping them, because they go nuts.
Yeah, they do. Like insane crazy. Let's see here. Cameron says Travis watered his pumpkin with creatine, use horse steroids. Try that in your bushel gourd next year. So let's say theoretically you do really good this year. You get another patch for your jacket. Will you grow a bushel gourd next year and shoot for a world record?
Yeah, that's something I definitely do. I'm very goal oriented and like challenge oriented. That's part of the reason why I like giving Brad a hard time, is because truthfully, between me and you and nobody else watching, like I'm threatened by Brad, and it's not a bad thing. That's right. Good, because Brad and guys like Brad and Jason and Jimmy and Joe Sherber, like all the local guys, steel sharpens steel, right? So
right,
with them improving their growing techniques and them getting better, that makes me get better. I don't do well with a lead, like I'm more of a kind of a come behind kind of guy. Right. So with them pushing me, it's better.
Right. And I would concur with that. It is a lot of fun when you're behind, because you got something to chase, right? It's not so much when you're on top, because then it's like, so yeah, I mean, it's I could definitely understand that. And like you said, steel sharpens steel. Everybody gets better. Everybody bounces ideas off of one another, and have fun doing it. So let's see here. Cameron. No, I don't really have anything better for growing giant field pumpkins. What I do with field pumpkins, I don't really know that I want to tell you right here on this. I grow them a little bit different, but it's not like night and day difference. I just I kind of pick the seeds out, like very, very choosy about the seeds. I plant them, direct sow them in the dirt. I don't transplant them. I just direct sow them. I put 3 in a hill, and whichever ones grow up to be the best out of those 3, whichever one it is, that's the one that stays. The other ones go, unless I keep one for a backup. Sometimes I do that. I don't bury the vines on them. And there's some other little nuanced things I do with them. But mainly it's about the fruit. So once the fruit gets set, I kind of focus in on that. So just message me and I can kind of go over that, because that's kind of lengthy what I do with the fruit. But and maybe I make a video on it this summer. So, but yeah, it's a little different for that. But Jason said he's coming for your state record.
Good luck.
Good luck. That's a freaking massive pumpkin. 1780, was it 1783? Right? Yeah, that's a massive, massive pumpkin. So what's your goals this year? What are you shooting for? What is your hopeful ending for the season?
Hopeful ending, and we'll kind of wrap it up with this one. The kids need.
Right. Yep.
The goal for this year is 2,000 pounds. I think that it is not as unobtainable in Colorado as it once was. The hobby, the sport, it's all in is advancing. So everybody's getting better. The genetics are getting better. The biologicals, the fertilizer, the technology, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Every year something's getting better. So it's making it easier. Um, and I think that with everything that I have going on this year, all the things that I'm implementing to try to feed me more information, so I can make decisions based on data rather than just guessing, will help push me that direction. Also, having a baby in in
Right.
June, or in July or August, yes, I will be busy helping take care of the baby, but because of that, I'm also not going to be traveling as much, and I usually am gone at least a week a month, probably more.
Right.
So just staying put will go a long way as well, because that goes back to consistency.
There you go. There you go. So, guys, we'll be back next week. I've got a long list of growers and stuff coming up. I'm going to let him go, so I'm not going to go through all that stuff. He's got to get out of here. I really appreciate you, doing this with us this evening. It's been a lot of fun and been pretty informative. And I hope you hit your mark of 2,000 plus pounds this year.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. It was fun. If anybody ever has any questions or anything, just reach out on the YouTube channel and I'll
Right.
answer.
And if you're not subscribed to his YouTube channel, go over and check out Chad New's YouTube channel. What's it called? Chad New, right? I think it's just Chad New Colorado Giants.
Search for Chad New or Colorado Giants. It's one of those.
And go and subscribe to his channel. I've learned so much from his YouTube videos and stuff. And first seeds I grew was from him. So go check him out and subscribe to his channel. Guys, we appreciate you watching, and we'll see you next week right here in the Hollers and Hills of West Virginia. See y'all.
Bye.